My name's Sharnee Bennett, and I run a marketing agency here in Adelaide, Australia. I came across Eddie because I read this book, 30 Properties Before 30, and I was highly interested in that journey because he's got 30 properties under 30, and I wanted to know how he did it. So, this book contains the blueprint to how he did it, how Eddie did it. The new book, How to Buy 10 Properties Fast, is all about us, me, you, normal everyday people, on how they can do the journey. So this book's about Eddie and how he did it. So good for you, Eddie. That's amazing that you've done that. But what about us, like normal people? This book contains the blueprint on how normal people can do it. And I think that the premise of this book is if you can get to 10, you can get to 100. If you can't get to 10, then you probably won't get to 100. So this is a necessary step before going any further. So if someone wants to go further than that, they need to get to this point first. And what he's done is he's broken it down into 3 structures. He said, okay, you can do it like at a medium pace, you can do it at a fast pace, or you can do it at a slow pace. And it really just depends on the conditions you're dealing with, whether you've got equity starting out, or no equity starting out, or even no capital starting out. Really, wherever your starting point, he's covered that in here. This contains a map on how to accelerate the journey of acquiring property. I think the first one we're left with how. He showed you directly how he acquired the first 30. And I believe he's now at 100. So really the third book's going to be how I got to 100. So we'll look out for that one. But I think that the second book really addresses the how we could do it versus how he did it. And obviously he got really creative when he was, he had different structures. But in this book, How to Buy 10 Properties Fast, he actually deals with once you've got a certain amount of property, then investing in an SMSF, like using more advanced structures. So he gives you a bit of a taste of that in the How to Buy 10 Properties Fast, using different structures. Whereas in the first book, he does talk about how he used different structures. He even talks about, in some ways, regretting using SMSFs with some of his purchases. And then he gives you the reasons why. So I think that here in this book, it's really just laying that foundation. I think the first 10 properties is so crucial. So he's really taken the time to break that step down. Whereas in the first book, he's talking about 30 properties. That's really beyond that first foundation. And it's also a lot of mindset. So for someone to go and buy 30 properties is going to require a massive mindset shift. So I think he's made how to acquire 10 easy. He's made it feel and look and actually be easy. And that's what I love about the book. It's a step-by-step guide to make the path to 10 properties easy and as fast as you want it, or as slow as you want it. I think how we addressed what to do if interest rates go up, because I think that's what I was left with from the first book, which is, how's he handling interest rate rises? Like when he was buying, it was a very different climate of interest rates. And even now, we went out for dinner with some friends on Saturday night. We were all talking about property, and everyone around the table was saying, we're waiting for 6 months because they're waiting for interest rates. And at that point, I was actually reading that book all weekend to really understand the formulas. So I was sort of left with, how do we handle interest rates? Because it's one of the biggest questions. And I think he handled it really well in the book. He gave us a really clear answer on how he handles interest rate rises and the buffer that he ensures we have on acquisition. He's making sure that we're able to handle basically anything that happens with the interest rates. I think that Eddie has really covered some major myths that are in the market right now. For example, you must buy property with land. That's a perception people have. You must buy property in these locations. He's kind of gone through it all and said, actually it's a broader definition of where we can buy and what we can buy. And I think the only real criteria he sticks to is I think he uses the language as the crow flies, 50 kilometers as the crow flies in each major city. Don't look at mining towns, don't buy silly properties or whatever, but he opens the door for 1-bedroom units or, like lower joined properties that, people might have a perception. Don't buy properties that have stratas. I think he sort of made the property acquisition more broader and more defined. And he's got really 3 simple rules, which he covers in the book on how to acquire the properties. So I think knowing that just gives us a lot more generous opportunities versus some of the ideas that are out there about what you can and can't buy. All of his current properties that he's recommending, like especially the ones in Perth, have incredible returns, are buying really under market value, really like great value properties. Most of us, like especially me being here in Adelaide, we don't think, maybe we go to Perth to look for our next property versus like just whatever's going on here in Adelaide or whatever's going on in Melbourne or Sydney. I wasn't looking at Perth before I saw Eddie. I mean, Eddie sends regular posts about here's the latest property we found. When you join Eddie's list, you get to see his recommendations. You get to hear from him on what he's recommending. If he wasn't sending those properties through, I wouldn't have thought of those as opportunities. I think I'm going to keep this by my desk on the left-hand side as a Bible sort of thing. I think this is going to become very weathered and worn as the year progresses, as I go deeper into my journey, as I understand some of the nuances, because you can read a concept, but then there's like going out and taking the action, like going out, getting the finance, going out, looking for property buyers or looking for property managers. It's like assembling your team. So I think that I plan to refer to it often as I go through that journey. That's what I plan on doing. Eddie is making a huge impact, guys. Like, he's making the 4-minute mile. Actually, I think the 4-minute mile's been broken, hasn't it? People, how fast are people running these days? To think that a young man can buy relatively easily and effortlessly 100 properties, he's essentially blowing that 4-minute mile for most people, which is buy a house, maybe buy a rental, and that's your retirement. I think that is being completely debunked by people like Eddie, who are showing us that there are many different paths to getting wealthy and acquiring property and wealth. And he's making that seem very easy and very doable. So he's making a huge impact. And these books are the starting point. I've also bought his course. So I actually have been through his course, and he's a great teacher.